Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining. I'm Dr. Imad Rahim, the endowed professor at Bellevue University. And today's topic is to focus on the Khmer-American experience. And before we really get into the topic, I would like for you to introduce yourself and the organization that you represent, starting with you.
Hi, my name is Chaya Chang. I'm Executive Director of Mekong NYC. We organize Vietnamese and Cambodian in Bronx, New York.
Hi everyone, I'm Lala Soom, part of the Cambodian Student Association at Cal State Fullerton, but also representing the Khmer Student Coalition.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Samala Chai from Philadelphia. I represent the Cambodian Association of Greater Philadelphia. We provide direct family services and advocacy for the Cambodian community there.
Right, hi everyone, I'm Sophie Mao from Oakland, California, and I work for Salesforce.com, but I am also representing the Khmer-American community of Northern California.
Hi everyone, my name is Kitu Sim. I'm a mobile support analyst at Unify United Natural Foods Incorporated. On my spare time though, I volunteer at PRISM, the Province Youth Student Movement, and I'm the secretary for the Cambodian Society of Rhode Island.
Hi, my name is Danielle Kim. I currently work for Trans-America as IT, and I have my own company called HypnoSnow to help the Cambodia-American community to overcome any life challenges.
Hi, my name is Randy Booth. I'm the founder and executive director for Angkor Resource Center, and we're in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, my name is Nancy Lee. As you know me, the Nancy Lee host or Dream Beyond Foundation. I'm representing both.
Well, thank you so much for being here and giving your time and coming from different parts of the states representing different organizations, because I know that this topic is very important to you. And the reason why we're here is based on a documentary that came out a few months ago. It was called Pass or Fail. It was based on a series called American by the Numbers, produced by PBS. Now, in this documentary, it kind of painted a negative picture of the Khmer-American population, especially with the young population. It depicted us as failures, especially in the education system. It depicted us as people on welfare, people that are struggling with no support. Teen pregnancy is high. Right? So, and I assume, because we're all here, we all have seen this documentary, right? Yes. So I would love to have a conversation on this documentary, get your perspective on it. You know, when you first saw it, so starting with you, okay, when you first saw this documentary, what did you think?
Well, there were several things. I think for me, on one level, it's like it was the biggest secret that I knew that there were young people in our community failing. So it was a relief in the sense that, hey, now everyone gets to understand the state of our community. And we have many different states in our community. And this is just one part of it, right? And I think that, wow, this is the biggest secret in our community, and someone needs to know. But what I really appreciate also is the connection they had around, I don't think it was a bad or good documentary. I think it highlights some very specific issues in our community, and that it's tied to our historical experience and the trauma that our parents went through. So in a sense, it is a tool that we can use to engage our young people and our elders to talk about not just the youth state of our community, but the state of the Cambodian community 40 years after the Khmer regime. So, so I saw it in that way, and it is a point of discussion for us. And we're definitely going to use it to talk about, with our community in the Bronx, to talk about, well, what does the next 40 years look like, right? So it's an opportunity for us to look forward, but also take a look back and just reflect around like how we got here. So it is important to have this conversation, but it's also important to have conversations on how do we make the next 40 years even more amazing and, you know, more powerful than what it has been. So, yeah.
So it sounds like you saw this documentary very informative, not necessarily a negative thing or positive thing, but informative, and it's going to allow you to have some dialogue in your community, right?
Yeah, it's a tool. It's an organizing tool.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And Lola, Lala, what is your take? Especially because it's speaking to your generation. I mean, many of the people that were portrayed in this documentary look like you. They are in your age group. They are high school dropout or college bound, ready. And they are from your community. They're from, the Long Beach area. They're from the LA area. So what was your take?
For me, like Chaya said, I think this movie was a very powerful tool. I think this movie is very powerful in the sense that it got our whole community asking, so what now, right? We all seen it, and now we're like, okay, so what do we do? Like you said, it hit home to me because it's based in LA and Long Beach, and I know a lot of the people in the film. I worked with KGA myself, and like I've always volunteered in the community. You know, I went to Poly High School, so I could relate to it, and I could see all my friends doing that. But it was definitely really informative because I did not know our numbers were so low, and like the statistics, you know, and it was really sad for me because, you know, I'm so proud to be Cambodian American, but when you see these numbers, it's kind of discouraging, you know, and you don't really think about it. Like you see it in your community, like, okay, there's not a lot of my peers graduating, but you don't think it's that bad, you know, and for me, it kind of upset me a little bit just because I felt like even though they acknowledge, you know, our dropout rates and stuff like that, I don't think they did a good job of talking about our successes. And maybe that's, you know, on our end because they don't have that data to put in the film. So it's just really, how do we update that data now? And it's just, I think it was kind of a slap to the face of the people who went through the educational system and who are Cambodian people who have, you know, established careers and do all that stuff now. So it's kind of, it disregarded us, I felt like, in a sense, because, you know, I'm a student, and like, how come you didn't talk about how many of us actually went to college, though? You talked about everybody who drops out of high school and, you know, the struggles that they have, but why don't you talk about the college kids who made it and who are struggling but are still trying to help our community? And I think we don't get college Cambodian Americans, we don't get that credit that I think we deserve because everybody's just looking at, you know, the negative side of it, but not really thinking about the positive. And I think even though it was definitely informative, I think they should have highlighted it at the end. Like, even though Cambodians are doing bad, they're still progressing or they're still doing good. And this is proof of it. You know, here are the numbers.
So you feel that while it was informative, it really focused on one perspective, right? That there's an entire different perspective, there's an entire different group of people that are doing positive things, that are doing amazing things, but they're not allowing that story to come out.
Exactly, because all the people that are in the story, it's all people who are struggling. You know, someone who was pregnant, someone who almost dropped out of high school, or someone who's trying to be like a rapper. But why don't you talk to people who actually graduated college and are doing something else? You know, why don't we have the other side? Like, yeah, I grew up in that, but there is a way out. There is a way we can progress, you know? It doesn't have to be through this same track or through this same path. Like, there is a different way if we do get together and learn together, inspire one another, but they didn't have that in there. And it's like, but our community is doing this, but how come we don't get that light, you know?
All right. So, no, that's a great point, that as a documentary, you want to see some balance, right? Yeah. We're not saying these numbers are wrong. We're saying that there's another side to these numbers, right? And while it makes up a percentage, it's not the large percentage, right? And now you're from Philadelphia. Now, what is your take on the documentary?
Well, honestly, I see a lot of validity in it, and I do appreciate that it came out. It did paint us as failures, but I think it was needed to have like a catalyst or an impetus for this discussion, for more movement, as for those who can help our community to come out and do so, and also a shared consciousness. Now it's out there. There's action now, and those ripple effects are coming out. So while we can't discount what was said there, great things are happening because it was said, and so that's what I'm really hopeful for at this point. And you see it today. You saw it even with the discussions on Facebook. That from this, we're gonna move forward into a brighter picture, a brighter future.
So you feel that while the numbers painted us in a bad light, it allowed us to spark a conversation that may not have happened, right?
It was a wake-up call that, look, yeah, we do see that. We all see that in all of our communities, and there needs to be more action to address that, but also to highlight our own successes. That came out with what you had said there. So now it's about being more visible, and I think that's a great thing that happened from this documentary.
Now, coming from the Bay Area, both you kind of, it's very interesting because you grew up in in Stockton,
Stockton,
right?
yeah.
So you have a large population of Cambodians there that resemble the Long Beach population, right? But you work in San Francisco, which is a lot more wealthy, right? But you live in Oakland, which have its troubles and history. So when you saw this documentary, do you agree with it? Can you relate to it?
Yeah, I absolutely think it is an opportunity. So I agree with Safala. It's an opportunity, and in order to progress and move forward and to find a solution, you have to acknowledge there's a problem. So when I saw the documentary, of course I was hurt by it. I thought, oh my initial reaction was, PBS, how dare they paint my community in such a negative and dark and depressing image. But then I thought to myself again, I said, you know what? It's true, because I grew up in Stockton, and I grew up in the 90s, and there was gang violence, there were drive-by shootings, there was teen pregnancy. I went to a high school that had a lot of Cambodian students, and we had activities that allowed individuals to partake in, but instead they chose a different route. So for me, Dr. Rahim, I feel that it is somewhat accurate, but at the same time, I think it's an opportunity, because had it not been for that documentary, you shared it on Facebook, and it was incredible to see the dialogue that was stimulated, and it prompted Wong Nancy was like, I'm going to do something about this. This cannot be. So I think it was very much needed. It's kind of acknowledging the problem first and accepting it and owning it, and then we can find ways. Okay, what are we going to do about it? We can create an action plan.
I think that's a great segue to kind of switching the conversation. And this side's perspective on it, because we're talking about a documentary where the numbers and the problems we know existed prior to it, right? Like, we know that this problem has always been in our community, that we have family members that have dropped out of high school, right? We have family members that had kids at a young age, right? We know that abuse exists, right? Poverty is high, right? Literacy is an issue, right? We know that exists in the community. But P2, why do you think it took this documentary to spark up this conversation when we know this problem exists in our community?
First of all, I just want to add on to what everyone has said. I think I agree that the document really portrayed us in a negative light, but I think it was really a big wake-up call. And I think part of the reason why this documentary really had a significant impact was that major institution of mass media said that Cambodian people are failing, right? And that is what really sparked the conversation, because I think our communities have always known that we're struggling, right? Yeah. That we need to do something to empower and uplift our community, and it just took a really big corporation to tell the world that this is our life, this is our struggle. I think that's the reason why this documentary was so powerful.
What was your take going down?
Yes, I've seen the documentary twice to get the perspective, and I also watched people in the panel discussion after the end of the showing, and I understand the concern and viewpoints from the community, and it bothered me because I'm away from the community, but then it also raised awareness, and I brought the discussion up, and it raised the issue, and we come together. It just brings awareness, and I truly think that the statistics is not current, and they did suggest that, and I understand our different points of view, but this is an opportunity, our chance to become visible, to take action, to come together and work together. I see this as a positive thing, so that's the reason why we're here, is to help our community.
I think you and P2 said something very important, that you talked about visibility, right? And I think because we are lumped into a larger population, we are somewhat invisible, right? So when they look at us, they see Asian, right? And we know the Asian, or being Asian, and coming from Asia, that's a huge, it's a huge barrier, because that's a continent, right? Exactly. We don't have a real identity. Our identity is tied with stigmas, stereotypes, and labeling that are often tied to larger countries like China, right? Countries like India, right? And that creates barriers for us to really understand our own identity, for us to really accept our identity or have conversations around our identity. And I think a lot of young people don't know what the Khmer-American identity is, right? Now, I'll go to Randy after I go to Nancy, because I think it's an opportunity for you to express your feelings, because I felt that you were hurt. I felt that, you know, putting the video out there and sharing with everyone, Nancy was the first one to jump on it, right? And I felt, based on your words, that you felt hurt, and I also felt some anger towards it. Yes. So please speak on that.
Okay, I know when it was screened in Long Beach, I missed it, or I didn't think it was important enough for me to watch it. My first time seeing it is actually after you posted on Facebook, and I'm like, wow, you know, what is all this talk? I have to watch it so that I can understand it. And after I watched it, yeah, I was very hurt, because this was the issue during my time. The gangs, the dropout, and all this stuff was like, that was over 20 years ago, you know? So I was very hurt to see that it's still happening now. I thought we had been progress. And because when I go to my daughter's high school graduation, you know, or her friend's graduation in Long Beach, there's a lot of Cambodian or the Asian community that's graduating, right? And then, but it's also a wake-up call, because then it made me realize, you know, sometimes when I do drive by Long Beach, like when I do visit Long Beach, especially the UCC Plaza, I do see some teenagers sitting out on the side, smoking or talking to their friends. But they're not that many. It's just 4 or 5 of them, right? So I thought, okay, you know, 4 or 5 are not having any directions, and I wish I could reach out to them and help them. So, but then at the same time, I didn't think the number was that big. So I was very hurt, and I was angry, because I feel that I was not angry at PBS for making the documentary or for painting the negative pictures of us, but I was angry as us in the society, us who we call ourselves the community leaders. There's so many organizations in Long Beach to provide all kinds of services. But why are we still failing? You know, why are we still failing? Why our kids are still failing? So in that sense, what are we doing as a community leaders? That's how I look at it. That's why I was angry. What are we doing as a community leaders? If our kids are failing, it's because of us. Maybe we're not reaching out to them enough. Maybe we're not doing enough. So I was angry, because we need to do more. We need to do something, which is why. Because I wasn't just, okay, you know what? Okay, somebody made a document. Who cares? It's not me. It's not my kids. My kids are going to school. My kids are graduating. No, I want to do something. I don't want to just say something. I want to do something. Because we all know action speaks louder than words.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Now, I can see where that anger comes from, because your generation suffered, and you went through a period where there was a lot of suffering, right? There was a lot of depression that was happening in the community. There was displaced. And now you see a younger generation, you know, your kids' generation, and they're pretty much going through the same thing, if not worse, right?
Yes.
Especially when you look at those numbers. And we know that in our community, education is very important, right? And to see something like that, it is heartbreaking, right? Especially with someone like me who come from education. Randy, now you're in Atlanta, but you once lived here.
Yes.
So you kind of see both perspective of West Coast, East Coast.
Yes.
What was your take on this?
You know, that's the truth. You know, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I see it over here in California. I see it in Atlanta. And according to the U.S. Department of Education, that's across the nation. You know, they break it down to ethnicity, Cambodian. 35%, you know, fail to finish high school. So I've been knowing this. It's just I don't have the means to do it. So I'm glad that the documentary came out, even though it paint a negative picture, but it is what it is. It's true. Some people can't swallow truth. And I don't need them to put the positive, speak on that, because if they did, people like Nancy won't stir that emotion in her, the spark, because of that, because I don't have the resource to do anything about it, and I could do, at the micro level, but somebody like Nancy, could gather the leader across the nation, okay, now we have a problem. This is a problem. Let's accept it, acknowledge it. What are we going to do about it? So prior to coming to this workshop, I didn't even know about the 7 habits, the path to teens. Now that we have this tool, let's implement it. So hopefully you could move the needle, and like Chaya was saying, 40 years from now, let's see how it looks. And start the end at the beginning.
Begin with the end in mind.
Yes. So I'm glad that it came out. I'm glad that it painted a negative picture, because I don't have the resource to do anything about it, but it sparked somebody with the resource to bring us together. And because of that, this is a big commitment. We took time from work, from family, to dedicate to this. This shows true commitment. This shows that we have a passion. And with that, I believe we could make some changes, make a ripple effect.
So this documentary brought us together, right? We spent the last 3 days together, engaged in a lot of training and a lot of discussion, a lot of exercise. Instead of going into it in more detail, right? Let's talk about your experience in this training. Like, has it changed you? Has it increased your awareness? Has it made you think more proactive, right? So starting with Nancy and going down, you brought us here together, right? And obviously the trainings that we participated in, you kind of led that because you saw benefit in that. So why these 2 trainings? Why the pathway, right? And the 7 habits? Why those 2?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. I'm pretty sure there are many, trainings out there that can help the kids benefit or can help anybody benefit from it. But those 2 are the only 2 that I was exposed to that is easily remembered, and it can easily be done by anybody, by teens, adults, or young kids. It can cater to any age. And I think it's really important for each one of us to have good habits, because it's very easy to pick up bad habits, but it's very hard to break. And if there's a simple way of just doing 7 things in our lives, 7 habits to help improve someone to have a better, clear picture of their life, then why not do it, right? So then I thought, okay, 7 habits, it can't be that hard. And then Path for Teens by Lori Beth Jones is that what I like about it is because it has an element to teach us how to understand other people. I'm special, I have positive and negative sides of me that I may not see the negative side of me, but other people can see. But this training, it helps us understand each other. So I thought that that's really important, because it can bring family closer together. It can tie troubled marriage. It can, bring co-workers closer to each other if we understand one another. So that's why I really like these 2 trainings. And again, I'm pretty sure there might be other better trainings, but it's just that I wasn't exposed to it, and I just thought these are the 2 that the teens could easily pick up on.
Nancy, thank you so much for describing the power of the training and why you brought us here. I would like to get everyone's perspective on your feelings towards the training, what you got out of it. So we're not going to go in order. Please feel free to express your opinion on it.
Well, the 7 habit, I've been doing it, but, didn't realize that I was doing it. But attending here put it into perspective. And now there's a format, that I could, share with other kids, so it could help guide them built their character, prioritized, the stuff in their life. So this is great. This is good. This is more perspective.
I agree with Randy. I think like as an organization that really focuses on teenagers, this is really good to bring back to PRISM, specifically because like I think we all in some way do the 7 habits, but this time it's standardized, right? It's like be proactive, begin with NMI, etc., etc. So I think that, along with understanding like what kind of elements you are, is really gonna refine the training that we do at PRISM.
Yeah, I think I agree with Randy too, and I think one of the things is like I've always had a debate with my daughter around. She's like, I am so popular because of my personality, and I said, your personality don't mean crap if your character is not good. So those kinds of things has been things that I've talked to my daughter and my kids about. So I think again, this is just a tool again that like strengthening those kinds of thinking, right, and putting it into practice as well. And I think that even if we're not doing anything, we're practicing some kind of habit, right? So I think acknowledging that we choose to practice this positive habits is a choice, and it is a choice, is a privilege. So I think for us, as we were talking about earlier, that there are people in our community that are suffering, and as people with some kind of privilege, we also have responsibility. And now we have a call to action. Now we have a tool. So I think it is a historic moment, but it's also a life-changing moment for me as well. Meeting you guys, obviously, right?
Likewise.
Like you said a important word, character, right? So how did the life skills that you learned in the last 3 days help you to help a young person build their character? Could you provide some examples of how these skills could help someone that's kind of lost and unsure about life and kind of don't know the directions, and how will those skills help build that person's character?
I'll take that one, Dr. Rahim. I think definitely if someone's lost, and we've all been there, we've all been a teenager, we've all struggled with the who am I, the where am I going, what's my purpose. So I think that the 7 habits as well as the path, it's going to enable for us to share our personal experiences as well, because we've all struggled, and I think that's something that we can connect with them on, and helping them to actually have a plan that they can touch and feel. Like when we were asked to write our vision on a piece of paper, that was really powerful, because when you can see it, when you can visualize it, when you believe in it, you speak it, and you're accountable for it. So I truly believe that it's going to help people find direction, and we don't even have to limit it to just the youth. I mean, I definitely, like as a mid-career professional, I feel that those are skills, those are life skills that I can apply to myself or even my colleagues. It can apply to younger children, teenagers.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, to answer your question, Doctor, there's a good habit and there's a bad habit. So we want to point out the good habit, the 7, steps, the 7 habits, and also the quadrant. That helps shape character too. Is it urgent? Is it important? Teach the youth, build their character by helping them move to quadrant 2, which is better, more incorporate. Yes.
Time management.
Time management.
Yes.
Time management.
Yes.
And like Chaya said, now that we know this, with this knowledge comes responsibility. So our responsibility to honor what Nancy is doing for us is to go back to our community and implement this.
Coming from a person that does a lot of business development and personal training, I really like the path and the 7 habits because it's very easy and simple and very detailed. Anyone can follow, adults, teens, and it's really easy. To me, it's really easy, but then it keeps you in focus, with the vision, with the importance of time management, with the habit. So, and adding on to that with our own experience of background of ethnicity of Khmer-American, we can use this by sharing to our youth that, we've been there, we've done that, we understand what you're going through. And they can relate, and we're sharing from our story from the heart, and that becomes more powerful,
Well, those are great examples, right? I want to start wrapping up this conversation because I think we can go on for hours and days, right?